And after that time, the king of the northern, he was a very ungodly man, and they had, Israel had backslidden into gross sin. They had the prophets of Baal came in and they built altars to the prophet of Baal. They were into astrology. They were into witchcraft. They were into perverted, deviant sexual habits. They got even to the point where they would sacrifice their babies to certain gods, the god of Moloch. And it was just terrible, terrible, terrible sin. And it sort of reminds you of some of the things that are going on today. Terrible things going on. You know, we live in sort of a protected area of the country. I was born in California, but I left in 1966, and it's not. It wasn't near as bad then. Some of the things that are going on as there is going now, and it's out into the light. Everybody sees it. But you know what? We're sort of like the frog. They say the way to boil a frog to death, you turn the heat up real slow. You put him in the pot, you turn it up real slow, and the frog is so stupid that he won't jump out until it's cooked. So, and that's the way sin is. It just slowly creeps in and slowly creeps in until our hearts get calloused about the things that we see. You know, and I know that Pentecostals that used to preach it years and years ago, when television first came out, we counted television. But it did. It opened a window to your soul. And the programs got worse and worse and worse. You know, when they first made the I Love Lucy show, I believe it was that, they always showed them, they wouldn't even let them show them the same bed, where they slept in the same bed. They had to have twin beds. And also in Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore, their shows, they had to have twin beds. Well, it's not like that anymore, is it? Hallelujah. You know, things have just got worse and worse and worse. But I don't know if it got as bad as in Josiah was seeing. But Josiah was a godly man, and these things disturbed him. You know, the church had, in his day, the temple had degenerated until it was nothing more than a museum. That's all it was. It was a museum. Well, one day Josiah decided that he wanted to remodel the museum. And so he gathered money, and I was talking so long my computer shut off. Anyway, he decided he wanted to remodel the museum. They collected money. Well, when Hilkiah, who was that was the name of the high priest of that day, he while he was doing the remodeling and everything, it says, let me go back to the 8th verse, if you would. 22 verse 8. It says, and Hilkiah the high priest said unto Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. Now think about that for a moment. That was their only Bible back then. The book of the law. And it was lost in the house of God.
Yep.
But that's not too far-fetched. There's a lot of churches in America where the Word of God is hidden and lost.
Yep.
That's right. Amen.
But it was hidden in the house of the Lord. So Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, which was the scribe, and he read it. And Shaphan the scribe, the 9th verse, came to the king, and he brought the king word again, and said, thy servants have gathered the money that was found in the house. We've delivered it to the hands of the workers that we are supposed to pay, and that have the oversight of the house of God. But verse 10 says, and Shaphan the scribe showed the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest has delivered to me a book, and Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the book of the law, that he tore his clothes. That was a sign of mourning.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the king commanded Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam the son of Shaphan, and Adbor the son of Mishiah, and I'm just acting like I know how to pronounce these, and I'm just tearing right through them. And Shaphan the scribe, and Azahiah, a servant of the king, saying, go ye inquire of the Lord for me and for the people and for all of Judah concerning the words of the book that is found. For great is the wrath of the Lord. It makes you wonder what he read, huh? Great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not hearkened unto the words of this book, to do according unto all that which is written concerning us. So Haggai the priest, he took it to a woman who was a prophetess. I'm going to skip around a little bit because I wanted to hurry up. But he took it to her, and she said, these things are going to come to pass. These things that you're reading about has come to pass. So whatever it was that Josiah had read, it had a remarkable effect on him. And I would that the Lord would have that same effect on every single one of us that try to minister the Word and try to preach the Word. Because Josiah was set on fire. Yes. He began to destroy and bring down the images. He began to destroy the groves. He began to execute the prophets of Baal. And he not only executed them, but he ground their bones into powder. And he would throw the powder into the river and let it wash out to the Dead Sea. He completely revamped all of Israel, not just his kingdom of Judah, but he went into all the tribes in the northern area of Israel. He would bring them down, and he would kill the priest, and he would burn their bones, and then he would grind their bones into powder. Boy, he cleansed it. He cleansed it to the best of his ability. He was on fire for God. Makes you sort of wonder what he read, huh?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you in a minute what he read. And you've got to realize that this took place 300 years after King Solomon. Now I'd like you to go with me to 1 Kings this time, not 2 Kings. 1 Kings chapter 13. 1 Kings chapter 13, verse 1. Come on, book. Okay. This name. 1 Kings chapter 13, verse 1. Okay, here we go. No, we don't. Okay. 1 Kings 13, chapter 13, verse 1. And behold, a man of God, and you got to realize this took place right here 300 years before Josiah was even born. And behold, a man of God came out of Judah by the word of the Lord to Bethel, and Jeroboam, he was the king of the northern tribes. He was one of the members of the big church split. Stood by the altar to burn incense. And he wasn't burning incense at the altar of the Lord. And he cried against the altar by the word of the Lord. He said, oh, altar, altar. This thing is skipping around on me. Oh, no. And he cried unto the Lord against the altar by the word of the Lord. This is the prophet of the Lord. And he said, oh, altar, altar, thus saith the Lord.